10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Jon DiVito Show. Eric, can you hear me this time? I took out my plug and plugged it into a different USB port. So I must have a USB port on my computer that's not working. So there we go. I figured it out. So welcome, everybody. Sorry for the delayed start. Apparently, you can hear me now, which, I don't know, I guess it's a good thing. For you, it might be considered a bad thing. I'm not sure how you view it. But anyway, I'm really excited to be here today. I feel invigorated. I'm excited to be on the air. I get a bunch of things I want to talk about. And this is also going to be the for the weather this weekend. I'm not sure what the weather's, what's going on in other areas of the country. We're expecting our first snow here, and we're pretty pumped. So, Mike from Tampa Bay, welcome to the show, brother. How are you? So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Jon DiVito Show. And, man, we've got a lot going on right now. I see a crazy lady saying a foot of snow there. That's crazy. Amazing. Hey, Q-Bella, welcome to the show. Mike from Tampa Bay. Eric, welcome, everybody. So I want to get into talking about a few things right way. The Gray Area, welcome to the show. Hey, Lisa Patrick, welcome to the show. Thank you for everybody coming in. So did everybody see? Now, I have to admit, I'm a little jealous about this. 2 winning Powerball tickets were won. $632 million. Can you imagine winning that kind of money? I mean, $632 million. Apparently, there were 2 winners. Now, I don't know if anybody bought tickets. Of course, I did, and I didn't win again. But my family, we were all talking about what we would buy if we won that kind of money. Now, how about you? What would you all buy in the chat right now? I'm kind of curious. I mean, imagine if you won $630 million, $310 million, whatever it may be. What would you buy? My wife was saying that she would buy a house in Maine on the ocean. I said I would buy a house in Florida on the ocean. My daughter said she'd buy a farm. And I see Mike from Tampa Bay saying he'd buy Joe Biden a cane. Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. I like that. And, Crazy Lady, we're all going to Disney World. That's a really good call. Now, Crazy Lady, I'm not sure if you know this about me and my family, but we are huge Disney World people. I have been, I don't even know how many times. I mean, with my children, we've been to Disney World probably 8 to 10 times from Massachusetts. And my wife and I, we took a trip when we were first dating. We actually went to Paris. I mean, we both wanted to go, so we went to Paris, got a good deal on flights, stayed in a business hotel, which actually turned out to be quite a bit less than some of the fancy, romantic hotels they had. And the business hotel was beautiful. But I remember we went to Paris and we ended up spending a day at Disney World Paris. So that's what Cheryl and I did when we went to Paris. We did all the things we like to do, but we also felt like after having like our 3-day freak out of being in a strange country where they don't speak your language, the food's different, doors don't open the same way. The electrical plugs are different. We needed like an American day. So we went to Disney World Paris or Disneyland Paris and had a great time there. So that was kind of cool. So I see Mike from Tampa Bay said, seriously, he would give all but $5 million to build the wall. I'm with you there, my brother. We certainly need that in this country right now. So I didn't win the $632 million. So I guess I'll have to put the dreams on hold maybe next time. Now, did everybody see what happened down in Virginia and D.C. with that snowstorm? That was insanity. Now, for some of the people that live maybe in warmer climates, like Mike, I know we've got you here from Florida. I mean, up here in New England, it's cold. We get a lot of snow. And the plow drivers, the salters, the people that do the job of clearing the roads up here are absolute professionals. I mean, literally, tomorrow we're going to get 6 inches of snow. My son has to work at 2:00 in the afternoon. So I have a 30-minute drive to drive him to work. I have no doubts I'll be able to get him to work on time. And if we were to get like a foot of snow tomorrow, if it started in the morning and it got done at about 1:00 in the afternoon, I'm positive that the roads would be clear by early afternoon. So everyone would be out traveling around. But I can't imagine down in DC and Virginia how they literally got stuck in their cars on a 50-mile stretch of highway for like overnight. They had to sleep in their vehicles. I don't know if anybody in here knows anybody that actually was stuck in that, but I mean, that had to be terrifying. I mean, you're in your vehicle, if you don't have gas, like I always have a full tank of gas in my car, My wife is one that's always on empty. It drives me crazy. Whenever I get into her car, she never has gas. If I have a half a tank, I fill up. That's the person that I am. So I would have been warm. At least my car probably would have been able to run all night. But my wife may have frozen to death. She wouldn't have had any gas in her car, and the heat would have been off by probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and she would have had to kind of just take it for the rest of the night and just freeze. Now, I guess my other question is, if there was anyone stuck in this 50 miles that had an electric vehicle, if you have a Tesla or some type of electric vehicle, I mean, I assume you probably can't warm your car up, right? I mean, basically a Tesla, I think you step on the gas, it goes, and when you take your foot off the gas, it stops. So I can't imagine there's any type of running mechanism in a Tesla that would allow you to heat your vehicle in this type of tragedy. But for those poor people, I mean, that is just awful, awful, awful. And I saw a DeGray area talking about it's minus 11 where he is. That is crazy. That is crazy cold. I mean, we are looking at Monday that I think we're going to have a high of 9 degrees, but minus 11, that's when things start getting ugly, when it's that cold. And I could do without that cold. Like for me, I don't mind, 30 or 40 degrees, but when you get down in the area of like minus with like a wind chill of like minus 10 or minus 20, at that point, I'm kind of done, with the cold weather. So let's get into some of the things that happen in this country. I get a bunch of things on my list. I haven't done a show in a while. I am going to try to keep this within an hour. If I have time, I will take phone calls towards the end of the show, but I have a bunch of things I want to talk about. So bear with me if you could. Share my live show if you don't mind. I would really appreciate it. And if you're new here, please consider following me, okay? First thing I have on my list, Mr. A is in the room. Let's talk about flurona. Who is seeing this train wreck? I mean, again, we've got COVID-19. We've got the Delta variant. We've got Omicron, which is basically, a common cold. And now we've got flurona is taking over the world. I mean, when are we going to stop? When are we going to say enough? When are we going to tell the powers that be that we want our lives to return to normal? I was watching the morning news this morning, and even here in Boston, we have a local Fox affiliate, and that's what I watch in the morning. But even the Fox affiliate in Boston is more liberal than you'd find in other places in the country. And they were just talking about the flurona, the flurona, the flurona. I mean, enough is enough with the fear-mongering and the scare tactics. Now, I was on briefly, actually for probably about 20 minutes, I was in the Old Man Show today listening to him and Dina Joe, and they were talking about the media and how when you turn on the news now, it's nothing but fear-mongering. It's nothing but horrible stories. It's nothing about scaring the American people. And honestly, I don't know how people could take it. Like, I literally get on the news in the morning. I may watch it for one cycle, basically because I want to see the weather. And then I just turn it off. I can't spend time watching news because it's constant propaganda and constant fear all the time. And it's worked because people are literally trapped in their homes. People are quarantining. They're not seeing family members. People are going into depression. And here we go again now. We thought maybe we'd get by it with Omicron, but now we're going to have the flurona. So good God, I'm at a point now in my life where I've just had it. I've had it. I literally went into a barbershop yesterday and I felt bad. I wasn't in a great mood yesterday. I was kind of in an annoying mood. I had a busy day for work. I had to do a bunch of things with my kids, which is kind of aggravated. So my son, Matt, wanted to get a haircut. He's 19 years old. He's in the autism spectrum. So he has a place that he likes to go. So we get there and we go into this place. And of course, right away, as soon as I walk in the door, "Where's your mask?" is the woman behind the counter. And I said, "Well, I don't have to wear a mask." And she's like, "Well, there's no mandate in town and there's no mandate in the state, but the owner of this place has told us that we are having a mask mandate in the building." So I looked at her and I was trying to be nice, but I looked at her and said, "Listen, I've got to be honest with you. I don't believe the masks work. I am someone that's vaccinated and I am not putting on a mask." I said, "We've been coming here for 5 years to get my kid's haircut. We got 6 members in our family. Of course, I'm bald, so I don't need haircuts. But the rest of my family comes here to get their haircut. If you want us to leave, we'll leave and we won't come back. But I will make it clear that I'm not wearing a mask into this shop. There is no need for me to do it." So the girl behind the counter looks back at me and she says, "Okay, you know what? I get it. You don't have to wear a mask." She goes, "Honestly, I don't even like the idea. The owner is making us do it." And she gets yelled at probably 5, 6, 7 times a day. And the owner doesn't even give the shop owner masks to hand out to people. They just basically yell at people when they come in the door. So We got our hair cut. I stayed in the building. We did not wear our masks. And I gave the woman a $10 tip on a $20 haircut. So I think I gave her a good tip and took care of her. But these are the things that, just kind of drive me crazy right now, where we've got all these mandates in society, and they just have to stop. So for everybody out there, hi, Dean and Joe, welcome to the show. Make sure everybody is careful with the flurona. You don't want to get the flurona, because this is the next narrative that the mainstream media is going to continue to push on us. It's going to be the next fear tactic that they use against us. And Dean and Joe and the old man and Eric were right on the mark this morning when they said the exact phrase they used was, the media stations right now, it's nothing but doom and gloom. It's nothing but doom and gloom, scare us, make us fearful, because again, if we're afraid and if we're fighting, we're divided and conquered, and they win. Shannon, welcome to the show. Good to see you. All right, so for me, I'm not too concerned about the flurona. Omicron is a glorified cold. Now, one thing for all of you now, as I've said very clearly, I am vaccinated. My children are vaccinated. My youngest two, we have decided not to get them the boosters because we're concerned about myocarditis. And that's coming from my wife, who's a doctor. Now, my wife has been talking about the people that have been coming into her clinic over the last week or two. And she is saying, and this is scary, that roughly 70% of the people that have been coming into her office that have been diagnosed with COVID have been vaccinated. So we've got all these different places that are pushing vaccine mandates, right? They are pushing this government control when in fact it looks like it doesn't work. The vaccination right now that's being required of us is failing. These aren't breakthrough cases anymore. When you're talking about 70% of the people that come in that are being diagnosed with COVID have gotten the vaccine, that shows the vaccine's not working. I think society has to realize that this thing is not going to be contained. We can't contain it, and we have to at some point get back to a normal sense of life. We can't continue to live in fear in our basements. I just celebrated the other day my 54th birthday, right? I'm not a young man. So should I spend the next 10 years of my life in quarantine, afraid, living in my basement? In 10 years, I'm going to be 64 years old if I'm still alive. You never know what tomorrow holds for you. You don't know if you're going to get hit by a car next week, if you're going to get cancer next year, if you're going to have some serious health complication that comes up. And it bothers me to see so many people that are not living their lives to the fullest, because I am at the point in my life right now where I get up, Mr. I thank you. I get up every day and I want to live my life. I want to get the most I can out of whatever time I have left, whether it's a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I want to enjoy the time I have. And I just reject being told that I have to quarantine and continue to lock myself down for something that's, in my opinion, is a glorified flu. So hopefully, if people keep speaking up, hopefully if people keep fighting back against some of these mandates, then hopefully we will, get out of this thing. But it's going to take the people, I think, pulling together and getting out of this thing. So let's talk very briefly about January 6th. I don't want to talk about this for a long time. I've got some really good other topics I want to talk about today, but there's one thing I want to talk about when it comes to January 6th. And I'm going to be very honest about this, because I think we need more honesty in people that report. All right. January 6th, what happened that day, in my opinion, was wrong. Okay. It started off as a peaceful protest. It got out of hand. I don't think it was a planned attack. There were some people that did some things they shouldn't have done. And it was a day in this country that I think was necessary, but it also was not, in my opinion, a good thing. I would have preferred to see a couple 100,000 people there protesting without, destroying the Capitol building. Now, I agree 100% with the gray area, and we're getting there. There is no doubt in my mind that this had nothing to do with an insurrection. It was a protest where people made some bad decisions. They got out of hand, but it pales in comparison by what happened in the summer of 2020. When I see Joe Biden and I see Kamala Harris getting up on television today and comparing January 6th to what happened in Pearl Harbor, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Let's look at some of the numbers. All right. Now, I wrote this stuff down. I actually did a little bit of research today, so you guys should be proud of me. June of 2020, the riots began. They were in Minneapolis, Kenosha, they were in Portland, they were in Seattle, they were all across the country. They were everywhere. Now, to give you an idea, I'm going to highlight first Minneapolis and then talk about the total numbers of what happened that day. Okay. Minneapolis in 2020, there was $550 million worth of property damage. The damage happened at 1,500 different locations. There were 604 deaths, or 604 arrests and 2 deaths. Portland had 23 million in damage. Seattle had 10 million in damage. Now, for the summer riots of 2020, these are the complete numbers. Again, give or take. I mean, this is what I researched and found. There were 63 people killed. There were 2,383 people injured. There were 12,000 people arrested. Property damage estimated somewhere in the vicinity of $1 to $2 billion. And again, you had politicians like Ayanna Pressley, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, and Kamala Harris cheering on these riots. They were called peaceful protests. They were called a variety of different things, but the powers that be in the media in this country would not call these what they were, and they were riots. They were riots. They were riots that were encouraged by our politicians in Washington, D.C. Did Trump encourage the insurrection? I don't think he did. I saw the speech. I saw what he talked about. I watched the entire thing. I saw nothing where he said that they, to go down and attack the Capitol building. So when you compare what happened on January 6th, the quote unquote insurrection, the worst thing that's ever happened in American history, say these politicians, it's garbage. It was not an insurrection. It was a protest that got out of hand. The summer of 2020, where they call it peaceful protests, those were not peaceful protests. They were riots. They were riots that the politicians on the left encouraged. They encouraged them. Now, I'm not saying that, what happened on the 6th was right. But I'm also not saying I'm against with what happened, because again, we have our Constitution for a reason. When people feel in this country that we have a tyrannical government in place, we have the right to organize militias, and we have the right to protect our country. And, again, I think that didn't happen that day. You had a bunch of people that showed up. I'm sure a lot of those people that were there had guns, at home, but they didn't bring them with them on January 6th. If that group of people really wanted to cause an insurrection, they would have brought their firearms, they would have taken over that Capitol building, and it would have been a lot different than it did. This was a peaceful protest that got out of hand a little bit. You had some people that made bad decisions, and the left is using this to completely discredit the right and go after Trump and go after the Republicans. And it's just crazy. I mean, why can't they come out? Why can't the left come out like I'm doing today? I'm saying that January 6th probably shouldn't have happened. Okay. Again, am I 100% against what happened? Not really. But I can at least come out and say, I see where maybe we were in error on that day. You have not heard one person on the left ever come out and say what happened in the summer of 2020 was a riot. No one has come out to said that $1 to $2 billion in property damage was unacceptable. They haven't said 63 people dying was unacceptable. They haven't said that 2,383 people being injured was unacceptable. 12,000 people were arrested. 12,000. How is that a peaceful protest? It wasn't. It wasn't. So that's all I have to say about January 6th. I talked a little bit more than I expected, but you know how I get fired up a little bit. So let me flip my page over. I got a whole bunch of things I want to talk about today. All right. So I know that not all of you are from Boston, but stick with me here, okay? Because this story is symbolic about what's wrong in this country right now. You've seen it in New York. You've seen it in Chicago. You've seen it in other places. Now, the one mistake I think that was made in Boston is this. Boston is a very unique place. For people that haven't been here, you can't understand Boston. The people in Boston are a different breed, and I'm one of them. You could probably get that by the way I talk on the microphone here. The people in Boston are a different breed. The people in Boston are actually old school conservatives, but they all believe they're Democrats. So I've come up with a new term of the people in Boston where they're actually conservative Democrats. They're really not progressives, but they have been living in a state that's been Democrat for so long, with the Kennedys and on and on and on. Everyone believes that they're a Democrat. So we have a new mayor in the city of Boston. They are. I mean, you look at Mark Wahlberg, you look at all the people from Boston, we're all the same. We all talk the same way. We act the same way. We're all fiery. One thing you don't do in Boston is you do not F with the people in Boston. And I can't swear because I'm going to be on Ralph Williams' network. This show is going to be on it later, so I can't swear today. But you can't F with the people in Boston. The people in Boston don't put up with it. I mean, if you think New York is bad, come to Boston and try to start with people here. It's not going to end up well for you. Now, in Boston, we have a new mayor, and honestly, she seems like a decent person. I look at her, her Twitter, I look at her profile. She's 36 years old. She is a mother of two, seems like a nice person. She was Harvard educated under Liz Warren, which was her first problem. Her name is Michelle Wu. So she's the first Asian American woman to ever be mayor in Massachusetts, in Boston. And to me, I think it's fantastic. She's of course now coming out playing the race card, playing the sexual card. I'm married to a doctor. My wife makes more money than I do. She's smarter than I am. My wife's amazing. I am not threatened by intelligent women. I am not threatened by career women. In my mind, there is nothing more sexy than an intelligent woman. There is nothing more sexy than an independent woman. I think that is really where it's at, honestly, and I mean that every step of the way. Now, Michelle Wu, I saw her getting elected, and I'm not going to lie, she's an attractive woman. She's a pretty young woman, 2 kids, she's married. So what does she do? She comes into the city and she's already saying that she's a progressive. She's going to change things. So the first thing she does in the city is tell everybody in the city that we are going to have a vaccine ID card mandate in the city of Boston. Let me tell you right now, get on her Twitter page, Michelle Wu Mayor. It's WU. Check out her personal page. Read the comments for just comic relief. She is getting destroyed. She announced the vaccine ID mandate, which is going to be basically the final nails in the coffin of many businesses in Boston, small restaurants, gyms, all these different places. Now, let's go back to what I talked about a little bit earlier. My wife said 70% of the people that are being diagnosed with COVID right now have had their vaccinations. So she's now requiring a vaccine ID card for people to get into these businesses. I'm vaccinated fully, and I've gotten my booster. I won't spend one darn dime in that city until this mandate is thrown away. I will not do it. I will not go in. I would die of starvation before I went in and spent one dime in a business in Boston once this mandate goes into effect. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to show my ID card. And I can say right now that I'm pretty positive in the city of Boston, there isn't one police officer, there isn't one restaurant owner, there isn't one right-winged, right-minded person that's going to go in and show their vaccine cards, except for the people that like to ride in their cars with the masks on by themselves. They can proudly, pull theirs out and maybe even have it in a lanyard so they can wear it around and show off to everybody. But I mean, it's just crazy. So literally now, this woman is now mayor, okay? She announced this vaccine ID policy. Right now, she's got the firefighters union coming after her, the police unions coming after her. Every speech she's given, go onto my Twitter page and look. I've got all these things posted. Every speech she's given, she has the firefighters, residents, and police officers showing up with sirens, blowhorns, with blowing like police sirens. You can't even hear anything she says. There are people that are protesting outside of her house. She lives in a suburb of Boston, and they found her address, and they're standing outside of her house with like megathorns or megahorns, whatever they're called. Those big horns that you hold. I can't think of the damn name of those, but they're holding those up. They're blowing sirens. They are just basically going after her 24 hours a day. So yesterday in Boston, they had a huge rally where I think somewhere in the ballpark of probably 5,000 people showed up, and they marched all the way from the Boston area where the Capitol building is right down to the State House, going through the North End where all the Italian restaurants are, and they literally had a huge protest. Michelle Wu stayed home. So she worked out of the comfort of her home while these firefighters and police officers were coming to speak their mind, and she didn't even have the decency to show up. Bullhorn, thank you. That's what I was looking for. So this new mayor is under siege in Boston. But now the big thing was now she started getting all these messages, people coming after her. People are calling the mayor's office. They're ripping her. They're emailing her. They're making comments on Twitter. And there are some names they probably shouldn't be using. There's one guy that created a profile, and he calls her Mayor Wuhan. Probably not the most politically correct thing you should do, in today's society. But she came out then and called everybody in Boston racist. Boston has this thing where everybody thinks Boston's racist. Boston is not racist. Boston is a great city. People just don't give a damn. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a jerk, you're a jerk. We really don't see color. The whole narrative all the time that Boston's racist isn't true. It isn't true. So she's now come out and called the whole city of Boston racist. And then if you haven't seen this, check out this guy on Twitter. You can find him on the internet. There's a local guy here that lives over in the next town from me, and I'd love to get him on the air with me. His name is, his site is Turtle Boy. So like the animal turtle, Turtle Boy. His name is Aiden Kearney, I think. And he's a really good reporter. He used to work for the Globe and the Herald, and now he has his own blog. So he, after she called everybody racist, he went into his all of the Twitter pages of all of the people she's hired, and he went and he found her communications chief, which was an African-American woman, and he went back on her Twitter page back to 2011, okay? Now, keep in mind, Michelle Wu called this all racist, so he goes back to this woman's Twitter page and found all these racist rants that she had made against Asian people. She was talking about the slant of Asian people's eyes. She was talking about Asian men having small male parts, and she was even using the N-word on her page, talking about, and the one thing that was just disgusting, she was talking about how, I guess, sucking D is an art form. I mean, the things that she had on her Twitter page was disgusting. So this guy, Turtle Boy, took all of these tweets, organized them, and did a blog about it. This thing went viral in Massachusetts. Everyone's sharing this with the mayor. She will not address it. She will not mention that her new communications chief was racist and made racist comments against Asians when she is Asian herself. So she called Boston racist, but won't address her own communications chief who's made racist tweets against, against her and against the Asian community. So to me, it's just crazy. Right? It's just an art form. I mean, some of the comments were unbelievable. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is an art form. Not that I've tried from the doee, being the doer, or being the I think I said that wrong. I want to be the doee, not the doer. So anyway, I've never tried, but I do like receiving it when it's an art form. So anyway, I'll get off this subject because we're going down a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down right now. So anyway, that's what's happened in Boston. Boston's a disaster. Hopefully at some point she comes around, because she really doesn't seem like a bad person. She just doesn't understand her people in Boston. If she thinks the people in Boston are going to relent, they are not. They will take this to their deathbeds. This is only going to grow. People in Boston, once they've got their mind made up, it is not going to change. So I hope Michelle Wu comes around and realizes these vaccine ID cards are just not going to work here. All right, listen, we already talked to you about the Omicron virus. We talked about the flurona. There's something else I want to address also really quickly. Masks in schools, okay? I had a doctor that I was talking to recently, and the doctor I was talking to was saying that basically the regular cloth masks that most of us are wearing, or those little medical, not even medical grade, below medical grade masks that we buy at like pharmacies and things like that, are useless. I love the description that he used. Is wearing one of those masks is like throwing sand at a chain link fence. The little particles of Omicron, the little particles of Corona, the little particles of Delta, and I assume of the flurona. Well, remember that song? Ma Sharona, right? I guess I could sing Ma Flurona. That's going to be my new theme song. I'm going to have to make that. Of course, I can't sing. I need to find someone that can sing a little bit. Ma Flurona. But the particles are so small, they're going to get through the mask. It's not going to work. It's pointless. And the thing that drives me crazy is I see these mask mandates. I mean, for me, I just don't give a damn. I'm not going to wear it. So no. I look at my kids. My kids are going to school every day. They have to wear a mask all day long. If it drops down below their nose, they're getting yelled at. If kids aren't wearing their mask properly, they're getting detentions and they're getting suspended. Now, I've got two of my sons that play basketball for the school, and the coaches can't do anything about it, and really the schools can't either. It's not even really the school's fault. It's the state that's mandating these things. They have all the boys playing basketball with masks on, and the girls. Could you imagine trying to run up and down the court and play basketball with a mask covering your mouth and your nose? I don't know how they do it. I mean, it's just crazy. So for me, I look at these kids and what they're being put through. I mean, the kids really have no chance of dying from, COVID-19, from Delta, from Omicron, maybe flurona, who knows? Flurona. Maybe they have a chance of dying from that. I don't think so, though. So why are we forcing these kids to wear masks? Why are they going in to wear masks every day, 10 hours a day? They're being forced to wear these damn things. It's torture. And you hear all these stories about these kids who are depressed, who are suicidal, who feel like this is never going to end. I mean, for those of you in here, remember your teenage years, how hard they were? Imagine going through your teenage years in the middle of a pandemic, being told you have to wear a mask all day. Oh, baseball season was canceled. You can't do this. Your parents can't come to your games. I mean, it's just insane of all the control that's happening with these kids. And I feel bad for them. So the mask mandates, when's it going to end? I think for all of us in here, I know it seems silly, but at some point we got to decide how we want to live. I mean, do you want to spend the rest of your life wearing a mask? Because after the flurona, there's going to be something else, and there's going to be 10 different other things. And then there's going to be a bad flu season. Unless we make masks go away, they're never going away. So I hope that some of you think about that a little bit. And, keep in mind that for the most part, what we're seeing right now with these diseases, they're a flu. They're a mild flu. And do we really need to wear a mask? I hope not. I hope that kind of goes away at some point. So, hey, let me shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about something different. Did you guys all see what happened with Antonio Brown this past weekend? That was crazy. Now, Antonio Brown, for those of you that don't know, very good football player, very talented guy. He's a receiver with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he was a receiver very briefly for the New England Patriots before Robert Kraft dumped him and Brady was angry. So Antonio Brown, when Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, Antonio Brown signed with the Bucs and has been playing pretty well. I mean, he's an older guy now. He doesn't have the same talent that he used to have on the football field, but he's still pretty good. And I've actually picked him a few times this year on my fantasy football team. He's performed for me. But the other day, all of a sudden, in the middle of the game, no one knew what happened, right? So no one knew what happened. Antonio Brown, in the middle of the game, took off his shoulder pads, threw them on the ground, took off his helmet, threw them on the ground, took off his undershirt, so he had no shirt on, and threw his shirt up into the stands. So here he is with his football pants on, with literally no shirt on. And let me tell you, if I had a body that looked like that, I would probably always take my shirt off. I would go to church with my shirt off. I would go to work with my shirt off. I mean, I don't think I would ever have a shirt on. I mean, no matter where I went. I mean, on an airplane, I would have my shirt off. I mean, if my body looked like that, I can't blame him for taking the damn thing off. I would have done it too. But the bottom line is he apparently ran off the field. He quit. There were stories he got into a fight with the head coach. He got into a fight with Tom Brady, and he was done. And obviously the Buccaneers relieved him of duty. And this is something that's always happened with him. He's had a lot of, I think, mental issues. He seems like he's kind of an unstable person in a lot of different ways. And again, as a lot of us know, that's a very sad thing to happen. But now Antonio Brown is coming out saying, well, I had a twisted ankle or a bad ankle. I hurt my ankle in the game, and the coach wanted him to go in the game, and he refused to go in and play. So the coach basically said, you're done. You're off the team. So he was apparently fired on the field, and that's why he threw all of his stuff on the ground and onto the field. But the thing of it is, he was talking about his sore ankle. And if you look at his sore ankle on the film, I mean, he was dancing in the end zone as he left the field and everything. But I got to say, hey, Don Hasselhoff, welcome to the show. I got to say, if I'm going to quit a job, that's the way to do it. I mean, go off and be epic. I mean, when you have, FU money, when you have the kind of money that Antonio Brown does, if you want to quit your job, you just don't need to be there anymore. I've got $50 million in the bank. I'm not going to worry about paying my mortgage. I'm taking off my shoulder pad. I'm throwing my clothes in the stands. I'm dancing as I leave. That's what I'm going to do someday. Someday I'm going to quit just like that. I'm going to literally go out epically. And again, I might have to be careful though. I might have to think about it a little bit differently because again, when I take my shirt off, I don't look like Antonio Brown. So if I'm in the office someplace and I take my shirt off, I mean, I'm kind of worried that some of the women will be vomiting into trash cans, things like that. So I got to be really careful not to make people sick. And so I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about my strategy when it comes to quitting. So, hey, Don Hasselhoff, I have to comment on you really quickly. Your name. I found on Samsung TV, we have YouTube TV in my house and we have a Samsung TV. So I realized we have like a whole free cable thing that's like YouTube TV. I didn't even know we had it. And on that Samsung TV, if any of you have that, they have the 24/7 Baywatch channel. Oh my God. I think I spent like 6 hours on Saturday morning drinking my coffee and watching Baywatch. And it made me remember why I like that show. I mean, not much of a plot, a little bit of excitement, but nothing but TNA the entire time. Oh my God. So I'm very, very happy to have rediscovered Baywatch. And I've been enjoying that show on Samsung TV on the Baywatch channel. Now, for those of you that haven't seen it, have you guys seen the Baywatch movie with The Rock and Zac Efron and that whole group? And what's that girl's name that was in the other movie with The Rock? Alexandria Daddario, or whatever the hell her name is. She's got beautiful blue eyes. Very funny movie. So if you haven't seen the movie of Baywatch, you got to check it out. Really a good movie. All right, so let me get back to my list here. I've got more on here, believe it or not. All right, so there's one story I want to talk about. Now, this is really sad. Hopefully you guys bear with me on this one. And again, I know this is a long shot because most of my audience, at least in the live, probably isn't from New England. But I do have a lot of people that download the show from New England. So hopefully maybe this gets the right person. There's a young girl from New Hampshire. Her name is Harmony Montgomery. I'm not sure if anyone's seen this story. Now, I grew up in New Hampshire, so this one kind of hits me close to home. And I only live about an hour from New Hampshire now in Massachusetts. So 7-year-old Harmony Montgomery has apparently been missing for 2 years. 2 years. And the police were just notified that she was missing. So the police now are obviously out looking for this poor young girl. Her father was arrested for assault. The father, apparently there were witnesses that saw him punch her and give her a black eye at one point. So this young girl has been missing for 2 years. The state of New Hampshire didn't know. The mother who had left the boyfriend or the husband did not know. And the husband or the boyfriend never reported this young girl missing. So this poor little girl, this 7-year-old baby, I mean, she's the cutest little thing, is missing. And the police are still optimistic that maybe they will find her. So if you get a chance, all of you, get on and Google Harmony Montgomery. Right now, there's a $43,000 reward for her if you know anything about her. And again, obviously, no one would do it for the reward. I would probably donate the reward back to the family and say I didn't want it. But I mean, you know, if you happen to know anything about her, there is a nice reward. And you call the number 603-203-6060. So again, that number is 603-203-6060. So especially on download, for any of the people that listen to me from my home state of New Hampshire, please keep a lookout. You'll Google her picture. She's a cute little thing, and I have a daughter, and it just breaks my heart to think that something may have happened to this poor young girl. So I'm hoping that the police find her. But let's face it, it's been 2 years. No one's heard from the girl. I mean, in my opinion, it's probably not going to end up, you know, being a happy ending, but hopefully it will. So we'll see what happens with that. But one more time, the girl's name is Harmony Montgomery. The number, if you've seen her, once you Google her picture, is 603-203-6060, and there is a reward of $43,000. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. And I am going to take some calls briefly when I'm done. And Eric, if you want to call in for a few minutes now, you can call in and I'll chat with you a little bit also. Let me click this. Here's the Eric button coming in. All right. So did you guys hear about the marathon bomber in Boston, the Boston Marathon bomber, and what happened? This is another one. Now, again, I know a lot of Boston stuff today, but this is where I live and there's a lot going on in Boston right now. But if you all remember a few years ago, there were two guys, the Saranov brothers, or however the hell you pronounce it. They put together pressure cookers and they set off bombs at the Boston Marathon and killed several people. And really, you know, one of the brothers was killed in the pursuit. And this actually ties back to the story I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Mayor Michelle Wu, that she doesn't understand the resolve the people in Boston have. When this Boston Marathon bombing happened, go back and watch the video. The entire state of Massachusetts was literally locked down. There were tanks driving around. It was an all-out search for this guy, and they used infrared technology to locate him hiding in a boat that had already been shrink wrapped for the winter with helicopters. I mean, it was unbelievable what they did to find these two. Now, what they did here, the government. Let's talk about our good friend Joe Biden. Let's go, Brandon. You know, Mr. Diapers, Mr. Diarrhea in his pants, Mr. Farting in front of the Queen, you know, whatever he's done. Joe Biden and his wonderful group of Give Money to Everybody campaign, they sent a check of $1,400 into the account of one of the marathon bombers who's in prison waiting the death penalty. So literally he got a stimulus check in his account. So officials did realize that this has happened, and they're now in the process of taking that $1,400 back and maybe giving it to the families of some of the people that he killed with his pressure cookers. So, I mean, can you imagine that, right, Scooter? I mean, how did he get a freaking stimulus check? I mean, no one thought about flagging this. This guy got a stimulus check for $1,400 when he was in prison as one of the Boston Marathon bombers. I mean, wake up. Good Lord. I mean, I guess he needs cigarettes. He has needs. So, I mean, he's got to, I guess, fill up that account so he can buy what he wants, but just kind of crazy stuff. So let me get into a few things. I wanted to highlight quickly some of the downloads that have been happening to my show. I know Old Man does this, and I want to hit this up really quickly, and then we're going to go into a couple other things. I'm going to talk to Eric a little bit. But I just want to comment to everybody. I want to thank each and every one of you guys. I appreciate everything you've done for me over the last 2 years. You know, I started this little podcast and I didn't know, where it was going to go, what was going to happen. I'm now approaching 65,000 downloads. So I've done, I think, 347 shows, 63 downloads. And I wanted to highlight some of the places my downloads come from. For those of you that don't do a show, there's a lot of cool stats that come with Podbean. So let me run down my top 10 countries in the world that listen to the Jon DiVito show. Number 2 really makes me laugh. And then the top 10 states in the United States that also listen to the Jon DiVito show. All right. So in the world, the United States leads the way with 32,204 downloads. Thank you, USA. And now number 2, this one kind of cracks me up. Bangladesh comes in second place. It's 6,239 downloads. Bangladesh. I mean, why is Bangladesh listening to me? So imagine if I went to Bangladesh. I think it's a kind of a small country. Who knows? Maybe, maybe I've got fans in Bangladesh. Do they even speak English in Bangladesh? I don't even know if they do or not. So for whatever reason, number 2, Bangladesh. And thank you for all of you guys that download my show. I appreciate it. The UK is number 3 at 2,054. India, and I've had a lot of Indian callers coming in, and they're always very polite, nice people. 1,941 downloads. Canada, 1,449, and I believe 1,400 of those come from Glenn, our buddy Stinky Dad, who's up there north of the border. Germany, 845 downloads. Now that's interesting. I mean, most people in Germany don't speak German. I mean, don't speak English. They speak primarily German. So I'm not sure how they understand what I'm saying, but maybe it's just, they feel bad for me and they download. I'm not sure what it is. Iran, 744. Ireland, my mates in Ireland, put up a Guinness for me. 700 downloads. The Ukraine, 570. And Spain, 453 across the world. That's really cool. I mean, one of the cool things about a podcast is you are just kind of all over the place, which is kind of a neat thing. Now, let me give you the U.S. really quickly, and then we're going to talk to Eric a little bit. And then I'm going to have probably 15, 20 minutes to take some phone calls if anybody wants to call in, okay? So the United States, Massachusetts, 3.2K. Thank you, my home state. Illinois, 2.5K. All right, that's kind of cool. California, which kind of surprises me because, as most of you know, my show might lean a little bit to the right. Of course, I know there are Republicans in California, just like I am in Massachusetts. So thank you to my 2.4 thousand downloads from California. Texas, 2.1. Washington State, 1.7. New Jersey. Now, I wonder if the situation from Jersey Shore is listening to my show down there. If you are, situation, I love you, brother. 1,545 downloads there. Florida, the great state of Florida, my favorite place in the country, 1,311 downloads. New York has got 1,217. My birth state, New Hampshire, 1,215. Thank you to all my friends that tune in. And Colorado, 1,043 downloads. So kind of cool, right? All right, so you're in Illinois, so the gray area. That might be because you, brother. I really appreciate that. Thank you. If those downloads are attributed to you, and even if they're not, I love you anyway. And by the way, for people out there, if you're not on TikTok and you don't follow the gray area, his TikTok is really funny. So make sure you check out the gray area's TikTok. He's got some really funny videos on there. They always make me laugh out loud. And I'm kind of getting my following back up on TikTok. I had 15,000 followers and then they dumped me, just like Twitter dumped me when I had 10,000 followers. So, I'm always getting destroyed on social media. But I did take the advice of Eric Kirk, and I have opened up a Getter account. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I think I've got almost 1,000 followers there already. So, Eric, how you doing, brother? How are things going?
I'm doing good. I think John Galen, slightly serious. That and the old man are on there, and Ralph is too. And
yeah,
but we're still
the gray area. Parler is back up. It's been up for a while now. Of course, there was nothing in the press about it. I think Parler's been back up for like 6 months, right, Eric? Because I've got my account going there still.
I mean, I haven't really looked at Parler lately, but I know like a year ago, they were dealt that very crushing blow when the Apple and Google App Stores, dumped them, and they were kicked off of the Amazon servers because I think it was, because they really desperately wanted Donald Trump off their platforms, but and I know like the other story this week is like Joe Rogan's podcast where he has interviewed two doctors, including one doctor who is the inventor of mRNA. That they've removed content of Joe Rogan's from YouTube, and they've even banned those two doctors from Twitter the same way they banned Marjorie Taylor Greene. I
mean, what you say, I'm glad you brought both of those things up. Those are things I wanted to talk about, and it slipped my mind. I had so many things on my list. But I mean, that's what we're seeing, people. I mean, we are seeing in this country right now censorship like we have never seen. And maybe it's always existed. Maybe it's always been there. But I still remember being a young boy and asking my father, my father was in the Air Force, and asking my dad about, what is communism? What is it like in back when I was a kid, the Soviet Union? What's it like in China? And, my father would say, in those countries, you don't have the right to free speech. And in those countries, the government censors you and you get punished when you speak your mind. And if you think about what's happening in this country right now, based on what my father told me when I was a kid, what we're seeing is exactly that. We're seeing censorship. We're seeing people being punished for coming out and speaking their view. And again, when was the last time you've seen someone on the left get banned from Twitter or from YouTube or from one of these places? If you look at Twitter, Marjorie Taylor Greene was banned. I've been banned. I'm nowhere, obviously, in her league. Trump was banned. You've got all these people. Joe Rogan's interview was taken down. The Taliban still has a page on Twitter. Think about that. The Taliban still has a page on Twitter, but Americans, including the American president, Donald J. Trump, were removed. And again, I don't care if you're out there and you hate Trump. That's okay. You can hate Trump. You can think he's a jerk. You can think he's a misogynist. You can think he's a bad president, because you know why? That's what makes America great. That's what makes America great, that we have the ability to think freely, that we have the ability to express ourselves. And for the people that are out there that don't think that this is a problem, it is a problem. Because if we don't fight back against this type of censorship, do you think it's going to get better? It's only going to get worse. It's going to continue. It's going to get worse. And before we know it, we're going to be told where we can go out to eat. We're going to be told what books we can read, what TV shows we can watch, where we can work. We're going to have every decision in our lives made for us. And once freedom is gone, there's only going to be one way to get it back, and that's going to war. And I don't think anybody wants that. I don't want that. Does anybody want that? That's why I think with what's happening in this country right now, Eric, is so dangerous and so scary. Now, you're in your 30s. I'm in my 50s. I've never seen a time in this country like this. I've never seen it. I've never experienced this. This is as new to me as it is to any of you. And, when I had Juanita Broderick on a couple of weeks ago, she's 79 years old. So she's 25 years older than I am, or whatever it is, roughly. And she was saying the same thing. She has never seen this country the way that it is right now. And if you don't think it's a plan, if you don't think it's something that's being coordinated, I think we all need to do our homework and look. Now, one of the things I've seen, Eric, now I don't know if you've seen this, but did you see that China has like a social credit system? And there is talk that America is investigating the social credit system, where basically no matter how you live, how you live your life, it wouldn't just be a credit report. It would be a credit report on you, but it would also be how you act socially. Have you ever been thrown off a plane? Have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Have you been arrested? And every single person in this country would have a social credit report that will affect the way you are treated in this world. And again, if the end game is to continue with this propaganda about the pandemic and to continue to push, now the flurona, God knows what it's going to be next. I don't know. I was a big fan of Good Times, the old TV show. So maybe it'll be the dynamite-orona. Maybe that'll be the next one. I don't know what it's going to be, but they continue to push these crazy mandates. And it just seems like to me, it isn't about safety anymore. It's about controlling us. And there has to be an end game. Eric, do you have any idea? What do you think's going on? You're a smart guy. I'd like to hear from you a little bit on this and find out what you think the end game might be.
Well, if they're wanting their new world order, I would hope that's never going to happen, because, if Americans are going to be complacent and not stand up and fight, then you're just letting the enemy win.
Oh, it's true. That's, and the thing that's tough about this is I think the government's been gaslighting us. The government likes us to believe that we're crazy. They like to sit back and they're like, oh, this isn't a plan. This is Corona. This is the pandemic. We're trying to keep you safe. Mandates. Have you ever seen any type of segregation like this in your life? The segregation we're seeing in this country right now isn't black versus white anymore. It's against, vaccinated against unvaccinated. And I'll tell you, the one thing I did like when I saw the protest yesterday that happened in Boston with Mayor Michelle Wu is I saw the protest happening, and I saw white men standing with black men. I saw gay men standing with straight men, women of different colors standing with each other, and all protesting for the same thing. So at least, if anything, I've had the question on this show many, many times. as to whether or not we can unify in this country. Maybe this is how we unify. Maybe this is how we come together and we make it so it's not about old versus young, black versus white, man versus woman, abortion versus anti-abortion. Maybe this is where we come together and fight this one common enemy, which is freedom against no freedom. You know, I mean, maybe that's going to happen. Shannon, thank you so much. I appreciate the coffee. I really appreciate that. So I don't know, Eric. I mean, what do you think is going to happen next year? I mean, do you think in 2022 we are going to, you know, win back Congress? Do you think that the red wave is going to happen? Or do you think the Democrats are just going to cheat again? Because I do believe they cheated. Some of you might think I'm crazy, and that's okay. Maybe I'm wrong. But my feeling is they cheated. I mean, do you think they're going to cheat again? Or do you think the red is going to take back Congress?
Well, I think if our fellow Americans are smart, you know, they would not fall for the cheating, and you know, take a look at like Virginia's gubernatorial election, you know, and you know, and look at how, you know, Terry McAuliffe, you know, just continued to double down and triple down with stupid, and that Loudoun County school system scandal being one of the October surprises, and Youngkin and Sears, you know, appealing to Virginia voters, you know, so and having lawyers like on hand to monitor these elections.
Yeah. You know, I saw the comment that Rounding Third made also in the chat. And I mean, did everyone see Bumbling Joe again today? I mean, to try to be fair, see, one thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying not to be part of the problem. I don't want to be a guy that propagates hate all the time. So I'm trying not to do that. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably realize I'm not very successful because I propagate a lot of it there. But I'm trying not to be part of the problem. But with Biden, it's true. I mean, I look at that man. He is not cognitively able to be president. My father is 81 years old and he has dementia. Joe Biden is like my dad. I mean, he has got some type of issue, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's dementia, and they keep, you know, pumping him up with drugs, propping him up in front of the country. If you don't think the other countries see this and know that he's a problem, I mean, they do. And he's a bumbling fool. Now, one thing I want to get in now, I'm going to try to keep this at an hour or below, Eric, because Ralph William asked me to keep it around 55 minutes. He's going to have to cut up the show a little bit to put on the Epic Strategy Network, which I'm excited about. This show is going to be on tomorrow at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But real quick, we can't forget about this. How about Ted Cruz? Ted Cruz finally almost had me sold, where I believed he was supporting the cause. I believe that Ted Cruz was in our corner. So Ted Cruz came out yesterday, and you can watch the video. It's all over the internet. Again, basically backing up the Democrats, saying that January 6th was an insurrection. What the hell is he doing? I mean, to me, he just became about as relevant as Mike Pence at this point. I mean, why would Ted Cruz do that, Eric? I mean, it makes no sense to me.
I guess he sold his soul to the devil. You know, and another way of looking at it, I think, the real insurrection was the November 3rd, 2020 election, when, like you've oftentimes said, like you went to bed that night with Trump leading really big, and then you woke up the next morning to see that, Joe Biden really just, pulled one out of his you-know-what.
That's true. I do remember that night, and it was over. I mean, I went to bed at, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, whatever it was, and it was an insurmountable lead. I mean, I went to bed going, great, Trump won. My wife, who had voted for Biden, said, okay, great, 4 more years of Trump. I mean, she was, kind of middle of the road. Some of the misogynistic comments he made kind of lost her at that point. But even now, my wife will say it point blank. She said literally, voting for Joe Biden is one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in her life. She said that she still doesn't like Trump, but she says that Biden is completely incompetent. And he is. I mean, he's incompetent. The guy is just, he's driving this country into the ground. I can't imagine how anybody could be happy. But you're right. I think, I don't know who made the comment. I think it might have been Bahram, who podcast said, none of the people on TV are our friends. And they're really not. They're really not. I mean, none of them are in our corners. That's why I think, one of the things that's important about Joe Rogan, who I love, and I wish I could be even 1/1,000,000th as good as he is in his podcast, but he is causing people to think. And for all of you that come into my show, you don't have to agree with me. I mean, I'm not right about everything. I mean, almost everything. My wife would slap me across the face if she was here because I know she gets sick of my garbage. But I mean, I'm not right about everything. But the bottom line is Rogan is trying to teach all of us to think. And we all need to do it. You can't believe everything that's force-fed to you. We need to forget about what the television is telling us. Forget about what the newspapers are telling us. Forget about the propaganda on the internet. You have to look and think and figure out things on your own. And we all need to do it. I need to do it. You need to do it. Everybody that listens to me needs to do it, and continue to tell people, do your homework, do your research. When I say that to people on the internet, I'm not being an asshole. It's true. It's not about me getting into an argument with you. Read, learn about what's happening in this world. And that is what I think will hopefully set us all free. So anyway, Eric, I want to turn it over to you so you can advertise some of the podcasts coming up on Podbean. Well, and for all of you here, if any of you are on Ralph Williams Network, the Epic Strategy Network, this show will be on tomorrow at 3:05. And I'm going to be doing another show probably tomorrow or Saturday. And that one will be on the Epic Strategy Network over the weekend as well. You can download the app in the App Store, and it's pretty cool. So go ahead, Eric. Why don't you advertise some of the shows, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up.
Well, I think still to come on the Jon DiVito show, John and I are exploring getting a couple more of the Get to Know Your Podcaster interviews lined up.
I got to respond to some. Yeah, I think Gray wrote me. I got to respond back to him. I saw those emails today. I got to respond back to all those emails. Again, thank you, Eric, for helping set those up. Thank you.
Joe Antonio is available Wednesday, so if you want to reply to him and let him know that next Wednesday at 11:20 a.m. is confirmed.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
And we're still going to work on Scooter and Spanky. If Spanky's off days on Thursdays, maybe Thursday might be a good day for them.
And for all of you guys who are out there too, if anybody wants to come into my show, if politics isn't your thing, we don't have to talk about politics. I have a lot of different interests. So Scooter, if we get those guys in, I want it to be a funny show. Let's get up and laugh our asses off and have a good time,
Yeah.
Well,
similar to
you and your interests. So don't feel like we have to talk politics if that's not your thing.
But I think similar to like when you did Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea interview, you probably have to set Scooter and Spanky's as explicit too, in case any curse words come out.
Yeah.
But coming up on Podbean, you've got this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, you've got the John Gale program, and also be on lookout like in prime time for the Low Standards and Poors comedy podcast Friday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Spanky and Scooter have, like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the Beans and Weenie show. Then 10 a.m. weekdays, the Old Man's Podcast with Dean, Joe, and Eric, plus a replay of the Old Man's Podcast with Dean, Joe, and Eric on WESN weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Slacker 82 Alpha, and Friday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, This Swap Doesn't Lie. And this week, Felix will have Jon DiVito as his guest, so be on lookout for that.
Oh, Jesus, I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. I forgot. Thank you. Whoops.
And be on lookout, of course, for Shannon Lynn to be publishing episodes about her compelling story, and be on lookout for her to do, impromptu blues music shows, and be on lookout also for Slightly Serious, doing 1 or 2 shows a week, and Jeremy tinkering with a new Seek and Find project, and also be on lookout for Mike Tampa Bay. And
Jeremy's too talented not to be podcasting. He's so good at what he does. I'm glad he's going to come back. He's been telling me that too. Good.
Also be on lookout for the Ralph Williams podcast to come back with new shows here on Podbean and on WESN, and also be on lookout for Chuck and Billy's Not Your Cup of Tea and Lingalonga, and and trying to think up a few more friends. Like, hopefully, Real Conservative Talk will be back soon with new episodes. And
no, Eric, did you ever see Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie? Remember when they told Howard Stern he had to say the call letters WABC, and then he put water in his mouth and pretended he was gargling with male stuff. I wonder if I could try. So, what's the Ralph Williams is W what?
Or it's WESN.
Okay, let me try that. Hold on one sec. I want to see if I can do this. So WESN. I've got like a sparkling frost right here in front of me. So I'm going to see if I can gargle with this. And I'm not going to say it's male stuff, but it's a sparkling frost drink. So let me try this. All right, here we go. All right. Oh, geez, I almost choked to death. WESN. Not bad. I can't do it as well as Howard Stern did. Gargling with the man stuff. All right.
Well, I think he had to have practice
that was close. Jon DiVito dies gargling. Oh. Anyway, I'm a piece of work. So I keep it dropping.
Yeah, be on
lookout. I'm having an ADD day. Go ahead.
Yeah. Be on lookout, of course, for for many many more great podcast friends to do their shows here on Podbean, and then and I think with Jeremy, I don't know if he got the Omicron or not. Frankie D got the virus too, but hopefully they are all like feeling better soon.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree. So, well, Eric, listen, man, I appreciate everything you do, and hopefully everyone in here gives Eric the respect he deserves. I mean, Eric was literally my first friend here on Podbean. He's done so much for my show, and he's just an all-around great guy, and I know everybody in here loves him. So let's give Eric a little applause as we end this bad boy, and thank you for all of you guys for joining the show. And Eric, I appreciate you, buddy, and we'll be back on with you very soon. I'll let you know when I'm going to record that next show, okay? All right, talk to you all soon, everybody. Have a great day now, and get ready for the snow tomorrow. I'm excited. So take care, everyone. There we go. How about some baby laugh on the way out? I love this. Oh, baby laugh. Oh, there we go.
See you later, everybody.
There we go. It sounds like Biden when they change his diapers.